1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
10 in the face, slim in the waist. 10 in the face, slim in the waist. 10 in the face, slim in the waist. Do you want the taste? Do you want the taste?
Check it, not from the bay, but I can make you go hype. Your girl won't like me, but your boy might wife. Do the right thing, just like your name was Spike Lee. Ain't gotta do much to write in checks like Nike, Nike, Nike. What's up, y'all? It's your girl, Miss Nessa, aka Blasian Mommy, and this is the Realness Podcast. A podcast where I share my thoughts and ideas on any and everything going on in the world today. So, let's get to it. My homegirl hit me up the other day, and, she congratulated me on starting my podcast again. And when talks about recording my next episode, she was like, oh, well, what topic are you going to cover? And I told her whatever my heart tells me. Like I have plenty of topics that I discussed in my intro video on what I'm going to be covering during this series. And I didn't quite know what it was that I wanted to tackle first. So, it's only right to talk about what's going on in the world today, and the social injustice and racism and everything that's going on. Shit's crazy. I don't know what other way to say this. And although racism has been existed for however long, over 400 years, it's like we've come so far to still not be able to be looked at as a human being. I am a 34-year-old Black and Filipino woman, and I've experienced racism in a number of ways. Just being biracial alone, I've experienced racism within my own people on both sides, from my Black fam and my Filipino fam. And I don't mean it, in my actual family, but just in general. So it's something that I've not accepted, but it's something that, like, we as Black people or biracial people are used to experiencing. And the fact that we have to be like it's the norm is really sad. And I know tons of people are doing videos about everything that's going on in the world. And this actually was one of the topics that I wanted to cover. Well, more so focusing on just being biracial, but it's only right to speak about, what better time to speak about it than now? Just being a woman, being Black, and being biracial, and always having to feel like I have to choose a side, or at least growing up I felt that way. And it's like none of this is new. It's just broadcasted more. And I think that it's never going to make it right. You know what I mean? It's not like you can never justify anything that's going on. The sad part is the sad part is actually witnessing, deaths on camera, and, people just not, being served justice. Like, it's like, I know some people are wondering, like, why is it now? Like, why is this the biggest, I don't want to say the biggest turnout, but why now? Why is everybody, going, sorry, let me gather my thoughts. It's just a lot going on. I apologize. But I had to take a social media cleanse. I had to take a mental cleanse off of, social networking, social media for a whole week last week because it began to be overwhelming. The my timeline, my group chats, and again, I too was sending back and forth, these videos, but it became so bad that I was literally crying every single day at the end of the night, wondering like how can we live in a world like this, and we're just supposed to accept it, and just, oh, that's just how it is, and that's why. And when I say my people, it doesn't matter if I'm talking about, you know no, it actually does matter. Yes, it matters. When I say my people, for the most part, I'm speaking on my black people. And it's just it's just choosing the right words to say or to express how I'm feeling right now. And although I can say I am in a better space than I was a week ago or 2 weeks ago or a month ago, it still is kind of surreal that people are blatantly showing you who they are. And like, how could you not love us? Like, we're just so dope. Like, despite all the fucked up shit in this world, like, I see videos of people still singing and dancing and, still not showing hate. And yes, there's riots going on right now, but please believe there's also real peaceful protesting as well. It's like we have a balance of everything. And to be quite frank, like, even with the rioting and the looting, I know most people already know what it really is, and it's not our people that's starting it. But I do believe, yes, some are participating in it, but as far as just going out and doing, whatever they're doing, it's like, I'm not even mad. Maybe I personally wouldn't go and do it, but I'm not even mad for those that are doing it, as long as you're doing it for a purpose. And, I have a lot of friends or acquaintances or people that I work with or just people I know in general that are not black and will never, ever understand the struggle of what it means to be brown skinned or black skinned or they'll just never know. And I see people's posts and, oh, I'm sorry, I support the black community, Black Lives Matter. And it's like it's more to it than just being outraged and trying to show support. There definitely has to be action behind your words. And I'm talking to you, my non-colored folks, or my colored folks, but that aren't black. I'm speaking to my Filipinos, to my Mexicans, to my Asians, I'm speaking to all of you, and this is a time for us to unite, but also do everything with a purpose. And I believe that in all aspects of living life, do everything with a purpose. So when you're out there showing your support and you're protesting and you're showing a black screen or hashtagging Black Lives Matter, you got to do more. You got to hold yourself accountable. If you love us like you say you do, then you need to talk to your people. It's tough having these conversations. I don't have kids. I work with kids. I've been working with the youth for over 13 years, but I personally don't have my own kids. I have my nieces, my nephews, my goddaughters, so on and so forth, and the kids that I work with. But other than that, I don't have my own kids. But just, not even able to, like, I can't even fathom the conversations that are having to be had with black families or biracial families who have black children, and having to express like what it means to be black, and that you can't walk down the street and expect to possibly not get jumped or criticized for the color of your skin. You know, people clutching their purses, getting pulled over. You know, it's sad. It's a sad reality that we have to experience that. You know, just the other day, I I was heading over here actually to go record, right, at my homeboy spot, and I'm approaching the gate to get on the elevator, and I'm, you know, holding my bag. I got my laptop, I got my little bag that I got all my stuff in. There's two white men that walked up, and they were coming into the gate, and they're like, "Oh, do you need to get in?" And I was like, "Oh yes, please, thank you." And one of the white guys go, "Oh, as long as you don't steal anything, ha ha ha." And I could tell that he caught himself and was like, "Whoa, like, I didn't mean for it to come out that way." He didn't say this. And, you know, people listening to this might be like, "Why are you taking up for him? You know, don't justify." I get it. But just the look on his face, you could tell he realized what he had said, and he didn't mean anything by it. And him realizing that it is sensitive times right now, and maybe a simple joke like that, you know, could really set things off. Like, who knows, what if I had a bad day, and with everything going on right now, I'm just like, you know what, fuck you, and blah blah blah, you know. But that wasn't the case. I looked at him, and he, you know, he kind of changed the subject, and he was just like, "Yeah, you know, I apologize." And I get it. Like, I don't live here. I was parked in the guest parking, you know, so by him being a resident living here, like, him just allowing me to come in, not knowing who I was, what I was doing there, or whatever, you know, I get it. And I feel like that's why he had made that joke. But, you know, it's not like it was a awkward, I mean, there was an awkward silence afterwards, but then he did, you know, begin to talk to me, and he was just like, "Oh, you know what, so what do you do?" And, you know, I kind of told him what it was. You know, "Yeah, I record a podcast, and I do this, and that." And, you know, we had a cool little conversation, the few floors that we were going up together. You know, he told me to have a good day. And yeah, like, it's tough. You know, it's like one of those things where I'm a very nice person, and I tend to not look at people as being bad people. It doesn't matter the color of your skin, because if so, it's like I'm just as bad as you. You know what I mean? And I feel in my heart that those weren't his intentions. And I feel like the type of person I am, I can't speak for anybody else but myself, but I do, you know, truly believe that in my heart that's not what it was. But I also have experienced blatant, you know, racism, where I was actually in Miami a few years ago with my girls, maybe like 5-6 years ago. And that was the first time I experienced that type of racism, where I'm walking down the street, you know, in my little bikini, my little cover up with my girls, and this white man walks up to me, and he starts talking to me about superheroes. Excuse me. And I'm like, okay, you know, having a good conversation. And I don't know, he could be bipolar. He could be, I don't know. He looked kind of like a bum, but he was just talking to me about that, laughing. And all of a sudden, he's just like, you know, F you, you N-word. And the N-word, I don't like that word, period. I've always been like that. My friends will vouch for me. They laugh at me all the time because I don't like to say it. I literally say the N-word instead of the actual word. But yeah, he's just like, "Go back to where you came from, you effing N-word." And I'm like, whoa, like, that caught me off guard. Because again, I've never experienced that in my life. And like I said, we were having a cool conversation, laughing. And then he just like a switch flipped and he came at me and everybody's looking. And the sad part about it, no one said anything. And I was so shocked that I didn't defend myself as well. I was just in disbelief that this was going on. And he just walked away and went on about his merry day. And everyone's like looking at me. And I'm just like, okay. And I just like walk away like, okay, that was weird. But it's a lot. It's a lot. And I just hope that we start really having these conversations about what it means to really support one another and not just be a hashtag and go on about your merry way. Like I said, just going back to voicing your opinions and standing by, you know, your black friends, your black family, your black children, and just sorry, my thoughts are all over the place. Oh gosh. Like I said, speaking on black or racism, excuse me, I'm just all over, and I'm not even gonna edit this like that. Like, cause like I said, this is the realness, so there's not too much editing that I want to go in, because I want you to receive all, you know, my flaws. I'm not perfect, and I don't pretend to be. So yeah. But going back to the subject at hand, there are plenty of ways to support us. Do your research. There's documentaries, there's movies, there's influencers that you can look up and research, and, you know, just really recognize like what it is that we are going through, what we're experiencing. And although you may not be able to fully experience what we go through, at least you can have an idea, and, you know, and instead of just sympathize, you know, empathize with us, and try to make a difference to the best of your ability. And again, like I said, having these conversations. If you got money, you know, donate to these causes, you know. I actually have some things that I looked up. Some of the organizations that you can support and donate are blacklivesmatter.com, blackvisionmn.org, Minnesota Freedom Fund, GoFundMe for George Floyd. By the way, there's a lot of people that are not feeling that GoFundMe, because I think he hit a world record of the most donations for a GoFundMe. So kudos to him. And not even just him, but just the support behind it. What else? There's shows, documentaries, and movies that you can research and get informed about. If Beale Street Could Talk, 13th. This is on Netflix. Just Mercy, which is a movie / book by Brian Stevenson. The Hate You Give, that was a real movie. I seen that one too. How to Be an Anti-Racist. What was that? Oh, sorry, that was a book. Dear White People on Netflix. I think I watched a few episodes, and honestly, it's because I just don't watch TV like that. But due to this pandemic, or whatever you want to call it, I've actually been able to watch a bit more shows and movies. But yeah, if you have any questions on how to support, and I say this, and the reason why I'm giving these ideas, these topics, and things that I came across was because last week I had a mandatory training at work, and this was the first time, excuse me. Oh gosh. See, the rail. This was the first time that we did it online, and there basically, one of the questions I was asked during the Zoom call was, you know, basically checking the climate of how things are going, especially with you know, Black folks. And In my group, I had 3 black people, including myself, 3 Mexicans, 4 Mexicans, and 1 Filipino person. So we didn't end up really finishing our training because we were getting into the subject matter of what was going on in today's, state, especially because we just came off the weekend of the murder of, George Floyd. So, so we were a bit sensitive to, the questions being asked, being held by 2 white women. And yeah, it should just got real. And at the end, my homegirl and I, who, shout out to Brittany, she was my first guest on my podcast a year ago. And we were having a really good conversation on what was going on. And she actually told me that she went to the protests and, having to experience her homegirl getting tear gassed. Like, I think it was her best friend, getting tear gassed. Like, this is real. You know what I mean? It's one thing to hear about it, but to actually experience it is just, it's crazy. But anyway, so we're going into a deep, like, 20-minute conversation. And my trainer, who was the only Filipino woman in the room, sat there and listened to us the whole time. Didn't interrupt, just listened. And when we kind of stopped, we were just like, oh, can we help you with something? Not being rude, but just, she was there. So we acknowledged her. And she was like, how does a person wanting to do research to experience what you guys are experiencing, like, how does one do that? And the dope thing about that, and I told her how dope that was the fact that she was curious. And, like, I've never had anybody ask me that, or I've never really heard anyone ask that. So that's what brought me to giving those those references, because of that. And I was like, the first thing you got to do is don't go to the news for your resource, because they have their own agenda, and they put out what they want you to know about what's going on in the world. So it's kind of skewed, or skewed, I don't know what term I'm looking for. But that's the first thing. Well, that's the second thing I said. The first thing you got to do is, just what she did right now, and just ask. You know what I mean? I told her I'll get back to her on some type of resources, but we did tell her there's documentaries, there's books, there's movies, there's videos, so on and so forth. But just to have people willing to understand is the first step of healing. I do believe that racism isn't born. You're not born with it. I know some people feel like you're born with certain things, but racism isn't one of them. You're taught that. And it's no one's fault but the parents, previous to that. Like, it goes back to your grandparents, your great grandparents, your great great grandparents, so on and so forth, and their ancestors, and it just trickles down. But when are you going to decide that this is wrong? This isn't right. I need to break the cycle of what's been passed down to my family, years and years of the brutality and the social injustice. When am I going to hold myself accountable and teach my children that this is not okay? That's where the line should be drawn. Excuse me, I feel like I've been talking a lot. But yeah, like, when are you gonna hold yourself responsible and end the cycle and teach your white children or your Asian children and your Mexican children that this is not okay? You know what I mean? So shout out to those that are actually taking a stand and actually applying themselves, as opposed to just supporting by hashtagging and thinking that their job is done. You know, I feel like there's so many things I can talk about, but I'll be here all day. But yeah, so I just want to end it with, do your research. There's a lot of people talking about it on their podcasts. Again, podcast is one of the biggest growing things right now. People are expressing themselves and sharing their voices and their thoughts and their opinions. Just do your due diligence. I've always wanted to say that, by the way. But yeah, just if you start to love my people just as much as you love our culture, then apply yourself. That's all I gotta say. You are responsible for who you are and your actions and the words that you speak to yourself, to your friends, to your family, and to the next generation. Are we going to continue to hold the divide, or are we going to hold hands and support one another? And again, I have white family members, like full-blown white family members. I have a few white friends, and I don't expect you to understand, but like I said, acknowledging that there is a problem is the first step, and wanting to learn to understand, and then third, applying yourself. Those are the three things that I'm gonna need my people of non-color and my brown people, my tan people, my off-white people, my purple people, whatever you identify as. I'm gonna need y'all to stop this madness. But yeah, that's it. This is my official first podcast. The other one was intro, so this is my first one. So yeah, shout out to everyone that congratulated me on my 1-year anniversary. The first episode was my 1 year since I recorded my first episode. And today is my 1 year since I released my first episode. So if y'all know me, y'all know that my birthday isn't one day, it's the whole month. So same thing with this anniversary. It's not 1 day or 2 days, it's the whole month as well. But just celebrating me. I appreciate you guys to the fullest. I appreciate my supporters. I appreciate my friends. I appreciate my family. And I'm going to really appreciate those that take my words and, decide to do the right thing so we can all continue with the healing process. Till then, hope you enjoyed. Hope I didn't go on a tangent too much. And yeah, take care.
Live in the waste.